Okay, chat. We cooked. We cooked again. Yet another Great Nature video. I know, don't get me wrong. Oh, before I forget, this is Gerard. Don't mind him. He's gonna be here the whole time. But yeah, today we're doing another Great Nature deck profile in premium. This time, instead of our funny little hamster guy, we're doing Big Belly. However, we're not doing the Rhino OTK like everyone typically does with it, but instead we're doing a French Great Nature build. Now, if you know anything about French Katrina or French Neonectar, you're kind of aware of the beats that we're gonna go with this deck a little bit. Or if you've kind of seen like Top of Worlds or just kind of in the EU area, you'll have some idea of what's here. This deck is based off of just sustaining a long time and having massive card advantage. And with the D card pool expanding more and more and giving us more interesting card effects, we're able to kind of toy with this idea a little bit more. Specifically for Great Nature, the ability to mess with the drop zone, not just reverse stacking, but kind of developing a board and adding more cards to our hand. This deck has had a couple of variations. I've been kind of toying with this for about 5-6 months, I feel like, pretty much right after the Hamskate video published. The first iterations of this was actually more of an Isabel pool instead of using the Big Belly engine, mainly because we're able to do gotcha mechanics during the opponent's battle phase. Specifically, Isabel has access to a Denial Griffin. However, you have other things like your G-Guard that can become a Perfect Guard, and the Ride Fixer also has a mill ability that can retire 2 or give 5k. Both are kind of okay. However, as more time went on, the Big Belly engine looked better and better just because of the raw card advantage, and just you thin your deck so fast. And even though we don't have the Spangled Sipticon play anymore, we still have ways to reverse stack, even though a little more janky. Or are they? This deck is very jank, but I hope people like the idea of it and kind of toy with it. It's a really fun concept, especially because you look at the Great Nature card pool and you just kind of notice it has cards that are really similar to Neonectar, to the point where you just go, why can't I be French? Here's the deck. I bet you're gonna see a couple cards in here and you're like, what? However, everything in here actually has a distinct purpose, not like the previous deck profile where you had Ride Fixer, which was like there to be there. Everything actually has a genuine purpose in here, which is really fun that this kind of has that oiled up factor. Pause. What? Everything in this deck is meant to be in here, and it kind of makes this feel very well tuned to itself, but it does have a lot of promise right now. So now we're gonna get into the main deck. So we'll just start with the main boss unit, Big Belly. Specifically, we got G and V Belly at a 2-2 split. Both cards are actually really strong. I'm never in a game where I wish I was on the other. I'm actually very content with either of them. And the deck also has a lot of ways to manipulate the grade 3 ride. However, it's not reliable, so I'm always happy to see either of them. Even the V Big Belly is really nice past turn 3, maybe even a turn 3 play if you go second. It's very okay, especially since both draw you cards. G Belly kind of being more tight. However, it does add this weird pressure to the entire turn, even if you do stride. Whereas V Belly is just raw card advantage in itself, and it's really helpful that the timing works as it does in premium. Next up, it's Enlargolv. I like Greed Shade, and I like drawing if I have to use it for stride. I just like more stride fodder with a benefit other than this is a grade 3. The deck is also tuned more to having beneficial grade 2s and 3s, and the grade 1s are kind of supplementary pieces to kind of help us set up, but they're not absolutely needed. Next, we're gonna put these two together, Usurp Dragon and Maple. We're gonna get more into them later because they're more relevant with another card. However, the big in general thing to notice is just it's a free board in Great Nature, which is just good. But however, I have to make sure you understand there is a bigger thing with these two, but we have to understand more of the cards. Aspronia and Saphira, one of the new Dual Nation cards that came out in Festival Collection. The Dual Nation cards are very good in D right now, and some of them have some niche cases in premium. However, they are very restrictive in the premium landscape because of that other than battle phase part of it. However, the cards are good right now. As an example, in the Hamskate list, I'm testing Lechuga right now. In this deck, we're running A and S, as I'm gonna call them from now on. A and S is just really good because it's just another new card that helps Great Nature touch its drop zone, which is really good in this clan. And it also gives you a free scry, so even if you don't want to pay the counterblast, you're able to manipulate to know your drive or fill up your drop zone so she's better later on, or Enlargolv's better, or just a card to stack on the bottom of the deck later on. The card is very well put together. It is a shame that it's just any battle phase, because with Almirage or G-Guard, there could be a way to manipulate it. However, Bushy Road made it so I can't have fun with this card more than I could. Next up is a card that I know a lot of people are a fan of. I'm also a fan of it. It is Compass Lion V, a 13k beater in Excel Clan, but it's also great too. And its downside, it's actually really beneficial for our game plan because of turns kind of like History Collection, Stride. It doesn't actually retire, so Compass Line does help with some effects, and just it helps enable us. And speaking of it, this guy gels really well with another guy, Mike Saburo. Everyone give a round of applause to this guy. Mike Sabaru is a very strong card and is like the strongest grade 3 searcher you can have. The big thing about him is he specifically states a grade 3 card. So you can look for the likes of Angel Ladder on top of Big Belly, either one you want, and Largolv and an Usurp Dragon if you're really wanting the piece available to you. So these kind of ping pong together, however, they are their own individual card. Compass Line is our earliest way to proc a Mike Sabaru before turn 4. Mike Sabaru is the ultimate toolbox card. However, it being grade 1 kind of sucks for our Largolv and ANS. It's pretty much okay just because the way he's worded is tricky because it is an end of turn ability instead of just when it's retired. Next is one of the best rear guards in the deck being Gray Belly. This guy just says, draw 2 cards. Just do it. This guy is very good. If you ever see one, you're actually set for the whole game. And with all the resurrecting and just needing to see 1 copy, I am tempted to cut down to 2. However, I don't want to tempt fate that hard by making that decision. So right now, I'm just happy to see Gray Belly whenever I can. And worst comes to worst, it's PG fodder. And that's like super okay. Next up is Bunta. You're gonna see why soon. Tapering Beaver, he's kind of the workhorse of the deck. To give that a definition, it's our Rhino of the deck. This guy just says on success, Soul Blast 1 double its power. It is hard because it's when success happens. However, sometimes you just get a 40k beater with triple drive and it just kind of works. Next up, it's Megatrix least favorite card, and he's actually really scared of it. It's Honolly. Honolly's actually kind of decent in this deck because it has a way to call it during battle phase. It's just good in general, and I don't think it's overall a big brick. It's one of the few 10k shields in the deck, and just kind of the ways you can cheat it out and just ruin your opponent's day. And you don't really get hurt by committing a Honolly on your own, even though you're an Excel clan. Honolly is just kind of good. It's a nice 2 of, and I'm okay just having it there. Sometimes you can call 2 down and just really disrupt the opponent if you just have that, which is likely because you're just drawing so many cards. Okay, we got Taping Cat next. Just wait. You have to wait. I'll elaborate more, just know that it's a 1 of in this deck. Next up is Deli Belly. This card is really good, and we do opt for main deck PGs because Great Nature's big weakness is, even though we can get a big hand, we don't have a lot of shield economy. Specifically, if we do draw PGs, we're losing more on 15k shields. So we're opting for main deck PGs because this one's really good, and we just have more shield value from our triggers. This card refunds itself, which is great, and it CCs. This card is just kind of everything. It's very good to have, and I don't imagine a world where I can go back to draw PGs in Great Nature if I'm on Big Belly. This is the coolest card I've read in ever, and this guy just kind of helps the game plan so much, and I only like just discovered it, and it is Wash Up Raccoon from BT13 Catastrophic Outbreak. This card reads so bad back in the day. However, because of grade 3 heals, this card's nuts because we can just fill our deck back up with them and like spam G guards to help our strides that need more cards face up, like the GBA and Battle Earl. This card is just insane. The only downside to this is it's just a during and end phase skill. However, the way that the deck is crafted, it's not a problem. This card as a 2 of, oh my god, it's so good. I can't believe I never realized the card until now. The triggers here are very samey, so I'm not going to elaborate much on them. There's just 2 I'm going to talk about. The first one being front triggers. This is what we replaced the draw PGs for, so we can slot Deli Bellies. Just because 20k shield helps the deck a lot more because we're just so low on shield value, and just fronts, when you check one, it's just so strong on your stride turns, especially just Caladrius. This card is just pressure incarnate, and I'm just glad that we can slot that and not lose out on crit pressure too. Boo! It's blue OT. So we do blue OT in this case. However, it is debatable between Blessed Favor and purple OT. However, I'm just on blue OT because Greed Shade is a cool card, and I like more Greed Shade, and just crit pressure is nice. However, if you think Blessed Favor is better, go for it. I'm going to talk about that later. All right, now for the G zone. We're just going to start off nice and simple. Wisdom Teller Dragon. This is our History Collection Stride. The only downside to doing the History Collection Stride turn in this deck is the Vanguard red text in Big Belly and Wisdom Teller don't retire. However, this card does apply good pressure with the red text, because the way you play this is you make sure to put a booster behind Vanguard before you stride, and just another rear guard. So you give red text the boosting rear guard behind Van, because who realistically is going to guard that attack so early on? So that's just a guaranteed draw. And then Wisdom Teller gives red text. You swing your rear guard, and it's likely going to be on an Excel circle. And it's going to be about 18, 22, like 26 early on, which is pretty good. And so that's another draw when it attacks. And if it hits, that's another draw. So you're just getting 3 draws off of just that combo alone, along with your triple drive. Turn is just kind of good. However, just nothing retires, which is harder because the card you're mostly going to try to play is Rotten Usurp Dragon, or Compass Lion, or something to enable Mikasabaru. However, this is a really good turn. It's not the strongest History Collection turn. However, it is very good for what it is trying to do, which is help you build up your hand because you had a really bad early game. Next up, the savior of Big Belly, Caladrius, again. No American flag this time, sorry guys. Caladrius is actually really good in this deck. I was still kind of in a Hamskay mode when I was building this, so I was only on 1 Caladrius to begin with. However, just kind of playing more with it, and I had a game where I was on V-Belly. I just said, oh my god, this is a 2 of, because this is like 4 cards. This is just more advantage, the card. And the Triple Thor is just a consolation prize, really. Really good card. Not a lot of resources needed. It's a really easy 2 of spot now that I've kind of messed with it a little bit more. Ballot Earl. Ballot Earl, Ballot Earl, Ballot Earl. It's Crest on a stick. Like, come on. This is quite literally just the best Great Nature Stride. Pressure, big numbers, and it's just a finisher. I'm probably going to put this back to 2 just so I can have a back-to-back play. However, just 1 of is okay because we have 2 Caladriuses. Card's just insanely good though, especially if you turbo it out with your G-Guards. Next up, we have one of our Success 25 strides. I'm not going to try to read that name. I'll be so real with you. This card, it does cause a filler turn, or just like a setup turn in a way. The big thing is just you get to send 4 triggers back. That's why you play the card. It's just more ways to reverse stack your deck. There are fun plays with this, like if you want to play this weird, you can set it up so you can just bank on a trigger to trigger your Success 25, because 25 is a harder number to hit, especially since you're not going to be on a stride that gives the numbers. Sometimes it's funny just drive checking a front, sending back a bunch of crits. You don't get to shuffle, unfortunately, but just like getting that just randomly, it just sets up for the funniest thing ever. And I'm really happy to have it along with other cards. Next up is the GB8. I hate this card. I still hate this card a lot. It's a choice of a finisher. I don't know if there's like a real scenario to think of. I want to make my board so big that you can't guard the Vanguard. However, I'm sure there will be a scenario where I'll be like, okay, fine. There's the 1 of case that works. Card's kind of just flip fodder for now. I still have to mess with it, I guess. Also, why did no one tell me that's not once per turn? I learned about this, not to date this or anything, but like 2 weeks ago, and I'm shocked no one pointed this out to me before. Like, I get it now. I understand why that's the effect now a lot better, because, oh my god, I read it as once per turn. Anyway, garbage card still. I'm sure I'll find a scenario where it's good, but until then, Next up is Zoa. This is more of the finisher card. Everyone kind of knows of Zoa if you've toggled Great Nature a little bit. It cheats games. It does its thing. You have CC with your Deli Belly, so CB2 shouldn't be too much of a struggle. The deck is kind of revolving around its strides, so I'm not sure when to fit it in because I haven't really gone into this either. It's just kind of there as a, hey, I think I can win right now with one big push. Because if you think about it, Zoa and GB8, they're kind of filler slots, but they're like just nice to have in case of, I think I can make my board really big to kill you instead of a Bala Earl turn, or maybe my Bala Earl's already up. Or I think you don't have a hand and you're not at 5 damage. I'm just going to kill you right now. Either is fine. I haven't really needed to go into it because either Caladrius gets me the game or Bala Earl secures me the game. Welcome, Megaloma, the French Spice. This card is what kind of enabled this whole idea to happen. Same with French Katrina, same with now. This card just says, hey, you don't die. And like we see this in different games like Duel Masters in Japan. I'm sure there's Magic cards. Maybe there's a Yu-Gi-Oh card of it. This is just the only like I don't die card. And this is just kind of what sets up the deck because we can kind of revolve a lot of our pieces into this. This is where I'm going to be more detailed because a lot of the deck is structured around a Loma or just kind of helps manipulate the Loma's advantage for you. Starting off with the funny card, Taping Cat. This card enables a double Mega Loma play. Specifically, if you have Usurp and Maple, we're going to talk about them just after this. There's a way to get the Taping Cat to proc when you stride, so you can draw another card with your card for turn also. 2 Loma again. The back-to-back Loma play, it is funny. The pressure of getting 2 Loma turns sometimes could just win us the game. Next, I mentioned them earlier, Usurp and Maple. Their main purpose here is after a Loma turn, we need a way to generate a board. And with French Katrina, you have Katrina to get your whole board of tokens. However, here it is to a lesser degree. However, we got our Usurp and our Maple on our Excel circles for that buff and just free bodies. And to tie it back to Taping Cat, you call one of them over the Taping Cat and you get to draw a card. That's how it happens. That's the back-to-back Loma play. You Taping Cat the turn before, just somewhere on rear guard, preferably not behind the Vanguard. Activate Loma by going to 6, however you do it, and then you call an Usurp or a Maple on top of the Taping Cat to trigger its draw skill, so you get the 2 cards in hand to do the second Loma, since you only have 1 card in hand on a normal after Loma turn. And the last real interaction with this is calling Bunta. Bunta is the self-damage pingers from Limit Break era. I love this idea of cards back in the day, and I'm so glad I get to play it at 1. The idea here is when your opponent's Vanguard swings, or just when the first thing swings and you're at 5, you G-Guard Almirage, call Bunta to put yourself to 6 and you trigger Loma. And if this happens during the opponent's Vanguard swing, they actually don't get drive checks because the turn ends immediately there. So this play is very niche. That's why Bunta's at 1. That's how you get to deny the opponent's turn to give you more pressure for not having cards. And Mega Loma helps you build the sustain that you get in this deck because you get Loma to deny you dying. You have Wash Up Raccoon to give you your heals back. If you go into Success 25, you get 4 more triggers on your deck. And it's big belly, so you're drawing a lot. So after a while, you just have a thin deck of just triggers you're putting back in. And so you have a bunch of heals, and heals win you games. And if you success 25, you're putting back in an OT maybe, crits, maybe fronts. Fronts are just as bad as crits depending on the game state. Loma just curves itself into this deck really well if you just want to sustain build. And this is kind of what Great Nature wants to be. It doesn't want to be this OTK deck that just scams games. It wants to draw. It wants to just live and just call a bunch of things. Next, we got Almirage. I brought it up a couple times in this video. This card is just like a Rain Breath Dragon and a Dismal in 1 that just has a Soul Blast cost. That's it. So you get to call 2 off of it. So you have so many plays. You have your Bunta play if you did a Loma. You can call a Honolly, 2 Honollies maybe. And I'm sure there's other things you can put into the deck to trigger these things. Heck, sometimes if you just find the Taping Cat on a Loma turn, Almirage a Taping Cat out. The card can set you up a lot, and I'm hoping with when the D pool gets more and more complex, it'll give us more interactions with Almirage or just weird like synergies with cards getting called, because right now in this deck, everything's during my turn or can only be done not in battle phase. Look at you, ANS. Next, it's Sankalpa. This is just a free draw and a big shield for you. I really like this card. And then you got Ardillo. This is kind of just staple. It's a plot maker. However, it does help you clean up your board, especially if you did a history collection stride and you have like an Usurp or a Maple left. You can just clear them out. Why not? If you're on a V-Belly, that's more draws. It's just a good enabler and it's just a plot maker. I'm gonna butcher this one really good. We have Sepchat Avil. This is the new G-Guard from Premium Collection. It came with Caladrius. This is just a big shield, or it can be a PG. Having 2 oh shit buttons, it's fine. It's really good. I've never gone to a situation where getting the shield hurt me. Next up is the key considerations. This is cards that I've tested and thought they were bad, cards that I've read and I'm like, there's good potential here, or just there's not enough room for them. So the first one that I've been trying so long to get into a deck is Sage Saint Big Belly. This stride, it's the same reasons it didn't fit into the Hamskay deck. You need 2 copies in your very tight G zone, and just you need it to hit to get the red text, which is so hard to do even if you do give a bunch of 4K power. There's potentially a world where this is the finisher. Maybe this takes out a Zoa. Maybe this takes out the second Loma if we don't think the back-to-back is good enough in the future. Yeah, it's just too clunky right now, specifically. I forgot to write the name of this down. I just wrote Toucan in my notes. I think it's Scale Toucan. It's right here. This card is nuts. It's just a bounce. I get another Enlargolf. I get another ANS. I get just anything I want as a piece again. And it's just so good. I can save my Gray Belly. I can get back my Tapering Beaver. I can just do whatever I want with this card. This card's sick. This is a case of there's no room for it because everything else in the deck is needed to a degree for whatever they are meant to do. The only thing I can see is taking out the Taping Cat and the Bunta. I wish this could be in the deck. It'd be 2 copies, it could be 4 copies. I just wish it was in the deck. However, as a one of, it's not good enough. And now we have Watering Elephant. This is a very strong stand trigger. The only reason it's not in this deck is there's nothing to manipulate with this. More specifically, it's the fact it says open rearguard circle that makes it not as good in this deck, especially since the triggers are our shield value. Watering Elephant would be better if we had a card like in Lorgolf that worked even if we were on grade 3. And like, it'd be cool to use the Wash Up Raccoon with it. However, open rearguard, so you can't call over it. It has a lot of potential. It's just restricted with what's usable in a premium deck right now. Sipticom, it's just a reverse stacking machine. However, the downsides are you're kind of throwing a turn away by striding into it. And unlike Success 25, it doesn't do much because it's flip skill. We don't have that much soul to manipulate because we have more cards that use soul, and just the reverse stacking is not really worth it because we can reverse stack better by cards in the drop zone instead of wasting our shield advantage. The only downside is just there's no way to get an OT from hand back to deck unless you guard with it. Mari Martin. This is one of the Isabel support cards, and I debated putting this in the deck, especially since you can find it with Mike Sabaru. This effect in a big belly list, it's not as good because you're kind of 50-50ing the skill you're getting. Because the reason you're going to play this is to Almirage it out and Denial Griffin. That's what this card does. It's just a Denial Griffin. You can't chance the normal unit part of this because it doesn't help you. You're just wasting soul to get a 12k. So that's just not worth it. And it's just kind of there. It's going to die probably. Or it's just stuck in your hand because you're like, I don't want to chance this. In the Isabel build, it's good. It's the reason you play the Isabel build. However, in Big Belly, it's not worth it as much as I would want it to be. Next up, we got Aram. I'm just gonna be outright and say, I think this card is absolute garbage and I need people to stop playing it and especially striding into this card. This card, just bad. Like, why am I getting rid of 4 cards from the top of my deck just for drives or 10Ks? And like, Great Nature, it can't really abuse the G-Zone effect. Like the Hamskate gets away with it because it easily just uses the plant tokens. Like in that deck, Arm makes 2 to 3 more attacks. In Big Belly, you're just making 1 beat stick, and it's not even a good beat stick because like it's not going to get powers because every other stride gives powers during main phase. So just Arm's a terrible card, and I like even in OTK Big Belly, it's not good. People go into it just because they have nothing better to do with their turn. And it's just like, can we stop playing this card, please, everyone? I brought it up earlier, but Blessed Favor, like, if you want to play Blessed Favor, go for it. I'm just more scared of the draw 2 deck out. However, if you want the Omni trigger, play it. I'm not saying it's bad. This is the only one where I'm like, I prefer the blue one. I kind of want to test the purple one also. However, I don't have many opinions on that one in this deck other than just heals win you games. Blessed Favor, it's there. If you do think it's better, please play it. I wouldn't deter you from playing it. I'm gonna circle back to the beginning and just kind of talk about the French Isabel aspect in case someone's more interested in doing that instead of Big Belly. And here's the final version I made before I went to Big Belly. This could be refined because when I went to Big Belly, that's when I discovered like Wash Up Raccoon and ANS is good in this deck. So this could be polished up. The benefit of it is just Mari Martin, and it didn't feel good. Like the top 3 check was kind of whatever, and like there's not a lot of gotcha to play in premium because you don't have your Isabel on your turn, so you're still playing gotcha instead of saying I get to choose the skill or whatever Isabel does anymore. I tried to make it work because the Denial Griffin play was really good and just guaranteeing the PG with the G guard. It's just not worth it because who know, gotcha in Vanguard sucks. However, there were fun cards in this list, and that's the Toucan that we talked about, and Tank Mouse. Tank Mouse is a really cool card. There's no real big thing to manipulate with it because you're not milling a lot with it. And in this build, we did Tester Fox instead of Mike Sabaru. It's a more restrictive search, was just easy to use, and you can put triggers back or just do 2 triggers back and do nothing else. Tester Fox is there. It's there. It's a beat stick. The only struggle is just it's a grade 3, not a grade 1. All right, and like last time, we're gonna do a little pros and cons, little guy. For the pros, being French or just playing Loma in this deck and the way we can use it to help our game plan, Mega Loma adds this depth and complexity to the deck, and it adds a bunch of options to your game plan no matter what game state you're in. whether you got OT'd, whether you know you're losing, whether you're in a good position, you just can be like, can I deny him more? It's just a really fun mini game you have with yourself of when can I do my one Loma, not even thinking about the back-to-back Loma play. In this version of Big Belly, or just Great Nature, no Spangled is very okay because you're using less G-Zone resources to reverse stack your deck now. And with the discovery of Wash Up Raccoon, you kind of just don't need to do the drop your hand, draw everything again. The Big Belly engine is really cool in Gray Belly and Deli Belly specifically. However, History Collection turn and just having V Belly, it's just a really good just package altogether. Gray Belly is insane. Deli Belly just refunds itself like nothing and counter charges all for 1 soul. It's crazy, honestly. Your sustain with this build is just through the roof. Like, you got Wash Up Raccoon. That's the biggest card ever. Just getting 3 heals back in the deck, it gives you a purpose to keep going forever. Before, it was just, what kind of cope do you have a Great Nature? But this card gives you something to play towards by just being more aggressive with your G-guarding, having a cool fodder to target with your Compass Lion, your Mike Sabaru. It's just a card that's just great all in all. And it gives you just so much more survivability. And with the inclusion of ANS and Largolf, you have more ways to cycle your drop zone again. So it's not like, oh man, I lost my pieces, I hope I draw them again. Now you're able to manipulate the drop zone more as Stoicheia becomes more and more developed during its time. Just, you're alive. I wouldn't say you're a wall, but you're just alive the whole time. Greed Shade is a good card. And Largolf, Blue OT. ANS, just having access to your drop zone now is so good in this deck. Great Nature, who knew, needed help just managing resources more. Drop zone manipulation is so good. I just hope Stoicheia gives Great Nature more pieces to mess with in that regard. You have big front row power that becomes card economy. It's awesome. It's so sick. Ballot Earl's a broken card. You're able to just get this big wide board and then just draw 4 cards. If you have a Great Belly, 6 cards. If you meet Gade, 8, 7. If you do Wash Up Raccoon, you do all the drawing, get your heals back in. You just do whatever you want at that point. It's insane. Cons, here's the objective. Great Nature. We're playing Great Nature. It's not a good clan. I've said throughout, just weak shield economy. We're lucky that we can put in the fronts because we have the Deli Bellies, but you have 1 Sankalpa. I wish you could do more, but just the space. That's all it really is. And to tie it into the other part, it's just early game is hard because you don't really have any way to guard. Like, you can use your heal guards more early because of Wash Up Raccoon, but you have a lot of 5k grade 1s and just like, there are a lot of grade 2s, and then just like, you're drawing combo pieces still, but like, there's not a lot of shield to work with. So you kind of have to pray that you can make it to like turn 4 and 5. There's a big lack of retire in Big Belly, specifically just because Isabel can clear out the board easily. Big Belly doesn't really have a way to touch the opponent's board. That's kind of a downside just because the back row is important right now, I'd say. And then this is the biggest con. Success is such an under-supported keyword. Like, I don't know if you guys have read the success pool, but it's actually kind of depressing how underwhelming it is. Hitting 20 is pretty easy now with the strides, right? However, there's no good payoff other than Rhino, Tapering Beaver, and like nothing else. Like, all the success stuff, it's so dated to what it is now. Like, there needs to be more success cards, and we don't really get that. Lester Rider would be a cool card to put in this deck if we had more success cards to protect, but there's just not enough good ones at this point. What is up, gamers? This is Trey. After filming this, I just finished editing the video. I have the timeline right in front of me, in fact, and I realized I never filmed an outro for this, so here I am. We're on webcam instead of actual camera because I just don't want to pull it out. I don't even know if I charged the battery again, so you're just gonna get webcam Trey. Sorry about that. Couple of points. I just want to give a couple shout outs about me making this deck. They really helped me put it all together. The first one being Mei Changu. They play a lot of French Katrina, and talking to them about it, helped me understand the French part of French Katrina, so I could better tie my deck together to have more French tendencies. The main thing was to understand the back-to-back Loma play on top of other things. The whole Loma section, all thanks to Chang. I also want to give a shout out to Card Dweeb We looked over this list a bunch of times and refined it. This has been in the works for a long time, long time. Washed Up Raccoon, when we discovered it, that really ignited the fire that we've been kind of looking for with this. This video had a lot of editing work in it. I'm kind of tried a few different things. Some fell short, some kind of became a laziness thing. However, I do hope that if you made it to this part of the video, that you really did enjoy it. I put in a lot of time into this, so I do hope you got something out of this. If you can build this deck, I suggest you really go for it. I think it's a lot of fun compared to the Hamskay deck. I can't recommend buying the singles just because Megaloma, ANS are so expensive, and Largolv now that Night Rose has been revealed. This deck is very expensive now just because of the hype prices. I got lucky that I already owned the cards, so I was able to just build this in my own abode. But if you have the pieces or can play with people that let you proxy, I think you should totally try this out. It opens a different way to play Great Nature instead of aggro or aggro. I think I know what the next video idea will be coming up next. It's going to be a standard deck. It's one of my favorite decks, so stay tuned for that. That video will probably be way shorter than this one just because the standard pool is not as in-depth, especially since a lot of the decks in standard kind of build around themselves. But yeah, that'll be a fun video, so keep your eye out on that. It'll be a Dragon Empire deck. If you follow me on Twitter, you'll probably see my one-off tweet about it, so it's not really hidden what I'm building. But if you want to see what it is, go to the Twitter. So yeah, like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next one.